Welcome to the first episode of the Game Warriors painting series. In this episode, we'll be painting Justicar from Cool Mini or Nut's game Arcadia Quest Inferno. Let's check out some of the painting steps. First, we're going to prep and prime the miniature in Army Painter's Matte White. Then we're going to apply the base colors in two separate stages, followed by shading and highlighting. We'll be shading the miniature with three different types of inks, highlighting the armor and the sword, and doing some dry brush in some select areas. Finally, we're going to move on to finishing touches. Finishing touches will include painting the base, adding some texture paint so we can make a cool lava effect. Let's get started. In stage 1 of the base coloring, I'll be painting Justicar's skin with Barbarian flesh. Then I'll move on to painting pure red all over the clothing that's exposed, followed by painting the armor with shining silver. Then I'll be ending by painting the blade in Hydra Turquoise. Now with applying the skin color, you're going to want to thin down your paint with a few drops of water. This will ultimately help get you better coverage and a smoother finish. Now at this point you don't have to be too careful because any mistakes will be covered up later on when you're painting the armor. Now that I have a few layers on and I've got the look that I'm ultimately going for, let's move on to painting the clothing. As you can see here, I chose just to paint a portion of the clothing that was exposed and deviate somewhat from the artwork. Now you want to take special care when applying the pure red, because later on it may require more paint to cover up any mistakes you've made due to the darkness of the color. When painting the armor, I chose not to thin the shining silver because I was looking for a more grimier, thicker, dirty look. I chose to paint all of the armor and the base of the sword with shining silver, because later on this will give a good base for the greedy gold to really stand out. I thinned down the Hydra Turquoise to a glaze-like consistency. I did this so I could see some of the white primer shining through, so this would help us create a frosty snow-like effect later on when we did the highlights. Now let's move on to stage 2 of the base coloring. In stage 2 of the base coloring, I'm going to completely cover Justicar's wings in ash gray. This will give us a good base color for the shading and highlighting later on in the process. Then I'm going to paint the straps that hold the armor on with leather brown. Finally, I'm going to pick out select areas of the boots, armor, and sword to paint greedy gold. When painting the wings, I thinned down the ash gray with a 2:1 ratio to give it smoother coverage and to better help it penetrate the recesses of the wings. Now to save time, I chose just to do a couple of layers of the leather brown, because later on with the shade it will hide any spots that I've missed. When applying Greedy Gold on Justicar's armor, I stuck pretty closely to the original artwork. When applying the Greedy Gold to Justicar's helmet, I started with a fine line and moved my way slowly but surely out to the edges, thus creating a triangle. Due to the thinness of Greedy Gold, it's going to take you a few layers to get to the desired color that you're looking for. And now that we're finished with the base colors, let's move on to shading. In step 3, I'll be shading the miniature in 3 different types of inks. The first ink I'll be using is Army Painter's Blue Tone. I'll be using this to completely cover Justicar's wings. This will help us give a nice angelic blue tone for later on when we do the highlights in the Drybrush. Then I'll be covering his skin in Army Painter's Flesh Wash. And finally, I'm going to cover the rest of the miniature in Army Painter's Strong Tone. This wash is going to darken the miniature, thus bringing out more of the details and ultimately giving it a more rugged look. As you can see here, when I add the blue shade, you can start to see the individual details of each feather. When applying the shade, you want to put a decent amount on. And if any of the shade starts to pool in certain areas, you can always dab it off with a dry brush. When applying the flesh wash, I only used a small amount over Justicar's skin. I did this because I wanted to preserve some of the light color of the Barbarian flesh. I applied Army Painter's Strong Tone over the sword, armor, and the clothing. I applied it quite thickly because I wanted to give the armor a rugged, worn look. Now that we have applied all the shades, let's move on to highlighting. I first wanted to start the highlighting by dry brushing the original color ash gray over the wings. As you can see by dry brushing, I'm really bringing out the details of the wings. When dry brushing, you want to gradually build up the color until you get the desired look you're looking for. Once I was happy with the color, I decided to do a second set of dry brushing with matte white. I chose just to do the top of the wings, just so I could have a contrast between the two colors and really make the wings stand out, make it more dramatic. To create the frosted look of the sword, I first started by dry brushing the center of the blade and slowly feathering the matte white out and getting lighter and lighter as I got towards the edge of the blade. Now when highlighting the silver sections of the armor, I chose to do a light dry brush in select areas with the original base color shining silver, and still preserve some of the darkness from the strong tone shade. Now with the gold sections of the armor, I went back over with the original base color Greedy Gold. And I did this just to lighten up areas that I thought got too dark with the strong tone shade. Now with the belt buckle, I used Hydra Turquoise and wet blended in a little bit of matte white. Once that dried, I added one more highlight of matte white just to show a reflection within the belt buckle. Now with Justicar's skin and clothing, I chose to do a light dry brush and pick out select areas where I thought the light would hit it, and also lighten up any areas that were too darkened by the shade. Now that we're happy with the highlights, let's move on to finishing touches. To create the lava effect on Justicar's base, I'm first going to do a few layers of Army Painter's Pure Red. Then I'm going to move on to Army Painter's Lava Orange. I'm going to paint this color from the center of the base towards the edge, and while doing this, trying to mimic what lava would look like while it's flowing. Then I'm going to add Army Painter's Baby Blonde. I'll be putting this in select areas of the lava orange, thus creating where the hot spots of the lava would be. And finally, I'm going to use Citadel's textured paint, Martian Iron Earth. Once it dries, it's going to crack and it's going to make the lava look like it's bursting through rock. When applying Army Painter's Pure Red, it took me a few layers before I came to the desired darkness of the color I was looking for. And once I was happy with the pure red, I began adding the lava orange from the center of the base towards the edge, creating a lava-like flow. You really don't have to worry about being too messy here because we're going to cover all this up with Martian Iron Earth. Now before the lava orange completely dried, it started to wet blend in some baby blonde just to bring out some hot spots in the lava. Then I added drops of baby blonde in select areas to mimic bubbling of lava. Now with applying Martian Iron Earth, you want to do a really thick layer, because the thicker the layer, the bigger the cracks that'll appear. After letting it dry for a few hours, now you can see the effect the texture paint creates. But to make it more dramatic, I added a layer of matte black over the top to mimic cooling of lava. This made the undercoat really stand out and help better define the lava effect. Now we're going to finish up by rimming the edge with some matte black. And now Justicar is completed. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Stay tuned to future episodes. We'll be painting more miniatures from Cool Mini or Not's Arcadia Quest Inferno. And as always, happy gaming. I'll see you around.